How are you?
Throwing pens at you. So sorry.
As you do both of these.
Anything I say about you is just,
Glowing. I'm sure. Thanks for.
Are you able to get out of there and get home?
Your daughter.
It looks great.
I have my driver's license number memorized for some reason. I know it doesn't. I was gonna say.
No, it was closed. Oh, no. No, that's the thing. I went there. I was like, oh,
I didn't realize it closing, so.
well, I didn't know they were either. I was like, oh, okay.
Anyway, Merry Christmas.
No, she's not. No, it's good. I just don't know the norms.
It's kind of far in front. I was going to sit up there, but Amanda told me I probably should. So
I used to be a front row seater in college. So.
I'd like to welcome all to this evening's regular board meeting of the Lakeview Public Schools today, Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day, 7:30 p.m. at the boardroom at the Weed Educational Campus. As has been widely known over the last almost 24 hours, we had a tragedy in the state of Michigan, specifically Michigan State University, where unfortunately more students were senselessly gunned down on campus, and it's going to be trying times for the families from all walks, those that survived, those unfortunately didn't survive, even the family of the bad guy. It's tragedy all the way up and down the whole spectrum. So, as this is another shock to the education system as a whole, I'd like to have a moment of silence for the folks at Michigan State University. All right, thank you. Moving on with the agenda, at our revised agenda at our places this evening, I'd like to move on to the minutes of the meeting of January 3, 2023.
Move for approval?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Secretary, have we any public communication this evening?
I do not.
Student representative report, Ms. Misakovich. Good evening, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, thanks, considering the circumstances.
Good week. All right. At LHS, second semester is off to a smooth start. I'm now officially a second semester senior. We have lots of fun activities coming ahead in the spring. For example, Student Council's Charity Week, which will be at the end of March. This month, we also want to take the opportunity to recognize Black History Month. We've celebrated this by posting various bulletin boards around the building that have been decorated to celebrate prominent African-American historical figures. Teachers have also decorated their doors to reflect these accomplishments, and the TVs in the hallway have announcements of a scrolling PowerPoint presentation illustrating prominent African-Americans throughout history, which was put together by Miss Finley, so thank you to her. Planning for graduation has started, and we're taking time to recognize the students of LHS and their accomplishments by putting on the graduation cap. Open house took place last week to share what LHS has to offer. A special thanks to the LHS ambassadors. Curriculum night was yesterday, and the counseling staff did an excellent job. Thank you to the counselors. And scheduling for the 2023-2024 school year is about to begin. Students will receive their 23-24 scheduling forms on the 21st with presentations to each class on the 24th. They're due back March 2nd. At JMS, Ms. Mixkowitz and a group of 8th graders from Jefferson attended the Macomb Student Diversity Summit. They attended breakout sessions and created an action plan on how to celebrate and showcase the diversity of JMS. At Ardmore, they are gearing up to host a blood drive for the American Red Cross, and they're also hosting a daddy-daughter dance this upcoming weekend. At Princeton, they are very grateful for the work of their new interventionalist, who, in collaboration with teachers, are moving students quicker and forward faster than ever. Last weekend, they had their annual PTO Mother-Son event at LHS with 370 sons and mothers who attended. It was a great night, and they would like to thank everyone involved who helped make the evening so special. They're also looking forward to the end of the construction at Princeton. Crews have been great, and they're focusing on finishing up the indoors at this point. At Harmon, social worker Ms. Stell, along with Harmon Student Council, have organized special Kindness Spirit Days for February 13th through the 16th, so this week. And they are participating in the Great Kindness Challenge that is taking place across the nation. As a part of their multi-tiered Systems of Support MTSS process, Harmon teachers will be involved in grade-level winter benchmark work both this week and next week, which will involve teachers and staff, interventionalists, and they'll be poring over data to help provide individualized support for students. The PTO at Harmon is sponsoring a sweetheart dance for students and their parents, grandparents, or guardian, and it will take place on the 16th. And they want to thank JMS for allowing the PTO to use their cafeteria for this event. At Greenwood, February and the new semester is flying by quickly. Project Science students worked in all first grade classes on various science activities. Yesterday's, the 4th and 5th graders enjoyed a music concert put on by the traveling JMS musicians. The 5th graders will be visited by the SSW and counselors of JMS as they begin preparing for their transition to middle school. They are also looking forward to a partnership with the JMS NHS students during March Reading Month. Last Friday, they had approximately 20 4th and 5th graders complete in a school-level script spelling bee after weeks of preparation. 5th grader Leah Barada, Greenwood's winner, now moves on to the Macomb County Regional Spelling Bee on March 5th. And Kindness Week began on Monday, and the entire student body and staff have been challenged to complete 400 random acts of kindness. And at the Early Learning Hood Childhood Center, this month they're focusing on learning about being community helpers, teddy bears, and Valentine's Day. And their character trait focus for this month is love and kindness, which is fitting. And last Friday, they held a Snow Fest, which is a family night for all the preschool families. They had over 165 families join, and over 600 people total attend. The center was filled with fun learning activities for the little ones, snacks, a dance party, and even some special visitors like Princess Elsa and Marshall from Paw Patrol. And they had great feedback, and the children did not want to leave. Tomorrow, they will be holding the preschool open house for the 23-24 year from 6 to 7 p.m. And enrollment will begin after the open house. And that's all.
That's all? Well, with about 4 months to go in this year, they're in full swing in the second semester. Absolutely, all across the district, so lots of good news. Thank you. Anybody have any comments for our student rep this evening? Awesome. Thank you for the report. Okay, moving on with the Board of Education Administration comments. Comments from the board.
I just have to say that the Winterfest that they held last Friday was really great. It was just nice to see all the parents, and my son, he loved that little dance party. He definitely had fun at that. And I think next week is kindergarten roundup, so I get to get ready for real school next year. All day, every day. I keep telling them, Leo, you're going every day.
Nice. Any other comments from the board? No? Administration?
Well, the governor has released her budget proposal for fall 2023. This is the beginning of the process. I encourage everybody to learn more about it. Learn more about it. The budget's the governor's budget, and I've got more to say, but I'll leave it in my goals report. Anyone else?
I do. We're starting to kind of wrap up the winter season, getting ready for spring. I'm cautiously optimistic that our spring start will be like what we've had the last couple of weeks, but I'm anticipating a couple of feet of snow, right? But our wrestling team won the league championship, and they won the district championship in Lakeview's gym last week, so they will be wrestling tomorrow at De La Salle, and it will be a family affair, so to speak, because Coach Julian will be wrestling Frazier, who his father is the head coach of Frazier. So it'll be a little bit of a, interesting conversation at Thanksgiving, I would assume, right? Our boys bowling team won their second consecutive league championship, and they were undefeated this year. So they are looking good going into the state tournament. And I got word a couple weeks ago that one of our golfers got a pretty prestigious scholarship. So I don't know if our golfer might be in the room who might want to share some of the details of the scholarship that you got. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's a pretty big deal.
I did. I got a scholarship. It's called the Evans Scholarship. I've been caddying since the summer going freshman year at the Country Club of Detroit, and I decided that I was going to go for this. It's a full ride to Michigan or Michigan State. I want to go to Michigan, but we're still waiting to hear back. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I thought it was important because she didn't mention it in her student rep report, but we can't let her leave tonight without making sure that we recognize that, because
There you go.
it's a pretty prestigious, and it's not an easy scholarship to get, so
Nice.
congratulations.
Congratulations again.
We, as you were saying, preschool enrollment will start after their open house, but our K-12 enrollment is really getting ready to kick off. We had open houses last week at our 3 levels. Really nice turnout. It's always great to see new families who are coming and excited about hearing about what we have to offer. And one of my favorite parts is at the high school, the students do the tours. So afterwards, they take them on the tours around the building, and hearing folks say such great things about the kids who were doing the tours afterwards, just as a testament of, what great kids we have here. We will be kicking off, our goal is by the time we leave Thursday, before the long weekend, to have all of the school of choice apps and things up online and allow new families to start enrolling, whether they're residents or school of choice. We are moving towards a more online, we're trying to streamline some of our processes. So we're excited about that, and we will be in full enrollment swing starting next week.
Good news. I do have one question, Sean and/or Mr. Paulson. The bond work. I know we had some delays and setbacks at Ardmore and Princeton in the fall, while going into last summer. How are we trending now?
Better.
Yeah, we're better. We're starting to see some things take shape on the outside of Ardmore. And as we've shared, we had Barton Mallow, really get on some of the contractors who were the ones doing the delaying. And it seemed to work
Good.
because they came out in droves, and we're starting to see a little bit more progress, and the interior of Princeton is starting to, come together a little bit faster than Ardmore, but we're confident that it's going to be.
Does it look like the site work will be done before school's done this year, such as the asphalt and getting that all finished up, since most of the heavy lifting is done? It looks like most of it's going to be interior, a little bit of exterior stuff going on, but most of it's going to be interior?
Yeah, once we're completed with anything outdoors and we don't have any type of heavy equipment that might be driving along the front of any of the buildings, that's when we'll put the asphalt down once it starts to warm up. I know the front of Princeton, we're still waiting on some paneling to come in to be installed, so that might need a lift, that, SkyTrack lift, so they might have to have that on there. So we don't want to put the finished coat to put anything that would damage it, so we want it to be nice and fresh.
Okay. Was there any more discussion on those swales brought up in the fall? Are they as they're supposed to be, or are they going to be raised a bit to go in the sewers? Is that?
Yeah, they weren't done. They were doing some work on them, and once they get kind of back to where the ground is thawed, they're going to be able to address a little bit more that they couldn't get to beforehand.
Cool, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board? No? Everybody's good? All right. Moving on with the agenda, item F, 2022-2023 Superintendent's Mid-Year Goals Update.
I really don't need to say anything more. I mean, Isabella and what you have on your agendas, but half of what's on the list, I suppose. No, I will give you a few fast highlights, and I will do it fast. Our MTSS team, she made a reference to it, continues to refine the supports and interventions for students based on deep dives into the academic data and behavioral data. Learning is a dynamic process and the mind is complicated. And those things need to work together. And so even some of the hires that you have in front of you tonight are part of that, that expansion of staff to deal with those sorts of issues. The social skills and motivation and recommendations for, what is the gap? Is it a skills gap or is it a behavior, motivational gap, right? Monthly PLC time. I think I said this to a subcommittee a couple of months ago. That's going to be one of those legacy issues for me. Like, it was necessary and important, and we worked with our union to come to a conclusion on how that could be done without losing instructional time. And that time is valuable. Those teachers collaborating together on a monthly basis, grade level teams, course teams, really getting into how do you do this, and sharing those ideas and getting better at the profession. The technology implementation team, we've got some new equipment even in this room. Long boat from China that was. You approved this equipment more than a year ago, and it took that long for it to arrive. The laptop computers, students have all the accessibility to all of that equipment. The new panels, one of which is on the wall back there. The elementary interventionists, these are all under the teaching and learning category, just, right? Being filled and having an immediate impact. The reference that Isabella even made, seeing kids move forward quicker than they would otherwise, all of the staff that are involved. Character, leadership, and service, you hear those events, and some of those events are planned by students, some of those events are planned by PTOs for students to learn. The diversity summit from today, where we had high school and middle school kids there at Macomb Community College. Our county actually hosts the largest manufacturing day, and it's no longer manufacturing day, it's manufacturing week, because of the number of businesses and thousands of students who go and visit those businesses to find out more about them as career ideas, right? And you see, it's not the factory of the 50s where there's a bunch of dirt and grease. These places are spotless, and you got robotic welders putting material together, right? So getting chances to do those things again now. We're back in what we would call more normal, not being restricted from bringing kids into those environments. Community engagement, the PTO and booster groups, we heard a number of things that are happening just in the last few weeks and the next couple of weeks related to those activities. We're going to have surveys to all families this spring related to school improvement and ideas to make the district better. Parents and students continue to be involved in the hiring process. Sometimes the candidates come in, they have a student on a panel that's an interview panel and a parent, as well as teachers and a secretary and a principal. That's not typical, but they have great insights. When the student says about a candidate in an interview team, I felt creepy. That's meaningful, right? You don't want to have someone that's hired a kid feels creepy about. So those are important pieces. I noticed our Sentinel reporter, a new Sentinel reporter, is here with us tonight. That's another thing. We had sort of a routine with the Sentinel, providing them story ideas and having a story in that paper almost every 3 weeks. And we're going to get back to that now that they've got a reporter back in place. The learning environment. So this has everything to do with not only the facilities, but the atmosphere inside the facilities, right? 2,000 laptops purchased this year, 190 flat panel, those are computers, you right up to the internet, do your YouTube search or your whatever on that device without a laptop connected to it. The idea of all the classrooms having access now, not just the secondary, students one-to-one, they have their own, but the elementary, every classroom now has their own access. And in the upper L, it's a full class set, in the lower L, it's a 10-box set, so because they often do stations when they do their classroom setups. The bond-funded classroom additions made reference to, those 2 buildings coming online, and then 2 more buildings starting literally in the next few weeks. These additional staff, just from last year to this year, these are all new positions built around some of the grant funding, built around some of our expanding needs in terms of mental health and those types of things. a third psychologist, a fourth special education social worker, 2 behavior interventionists, an additional math specialist. So now there's 2. 6 elementary academic interventionists. That's going to have a big impact. And we won't see the full impact in this year's scores, but next year, back in the top. I mean, well, we never really left the top, but let's dabble around in 1, 2, not 1 through 5, right? Safety drills and procedures. We're actually going to go to a K-12 setup on how we look at the concept of drills. So the Blue Point intervention or emergency alert system, having the same poster and the same language everywhere related to those lockdown drills. So it doesn't matter if I travel building to building, it doesn't matter if I have no idea what this is. When I hear it's a Blue Point, the announcement saying this kind of lockdown, I can look at the wall, I can see what I'm supposed to do. It's not going to be, I got to go fumble through a folder, right? We want to make it simple and keep it simple, but be effective with it. Another year of clean audit. I mean, I don't know how many years it is, probably Don Wheaton, the historian of the past 25 years, could tell us, but it's been a clean audit every year I've been here, and that's 20, so that's close enough for government work, I guess. We exceeded our projections for enrollment this fall. We exceeded our projection from what we were targeting for per pupil funding. The Moody's folks just contacted me related to this year's, every 2 years they do a new review. And I already know, I think it got posted publicly maybe Friday last week, A2 rating again. So we're carrying forward with a good, solid credit rating. The business team here collaborates closely with the instructional team so that we can maximize the use of those grant funds and find ways to use funding that's maybe not going to be permanent for things that aren't going to be permanent things, and keep the funding that's permanent, more permanent for the long-term things, right? That doesn't happen everywhere. Bond projects, we've modified bond projects since 2019's concepts because we're in a different place. With one-to-one laptops, we don't need to build wired desktop labs, right? So we made those modifications without giving up the spirit of what the bond program was intending to do. And I credit that for everybody, right? The board's involvement in that, we have our staff involvement in that, principals are involved in that. 2 employee master agreements negotiated closed out this fall. 2 more coming this year, right? Several employee master groups had letters of agreement because we modified the benefits program a little bit. Central staff contracts were evaluated and restructured. So, I mean, you have a list of 75 things, but you think about what Isabella shared and what Sean shared. Those are indicators of you put really good people in place, and you can get really good things to happen. And that's primary all the time. Number one, we will not settle when you have a committee of people interviewing somebody and you go, so sometimes it takes longer, but we're willing to wait for quality. Absolutely. I offer up for any questions.
Yeah, you had mentioned the interventionists, with what happened 24 hours ago, that's front and center again for all of us. And I know there's a separation between the job of the interventionist versus the therapist, and we fulfill one of those steps. You want to elaborate more on that?
Sure. We have, when we have social workers and counselors and folks like that, their role isn't to provide weekly therapy. We're not in that business. We're not licensed for that. It's not appropriate. We could run groups, some group things once in a while for certain circumstances, and we have for years. Sometimes divorce kids in elementary school, divorce group at lunch once a week, and a social worker or a counselor might run that. But we don't do therapy. We don't have 30-minute sessions, 6 days a week for some staff member to perform that service. That has to be referred out, and so our staff don't find those referral locations and suggest that to families. So there is a differentiation, if you will, between what you might think our staff should be doing and what they can do. Because if you're going to be out there providing therapy, you're going to be in a licensed facility with the proper, credentials and insurance connections to bill and all that sort of thing, and that's not what we do.
Any other comments, questions for Mr. Paulson?
I just want to take a minute and appreciate the time that you took to share your goals with us, and that they're aligned with our strategic plan priorities and goals that we put in place. And it's important that we keep that continuity going forward, and I know you're mindful of that, so thank you.
And noting that this is the mid-year update, so
Yeah. Right.
it's all good. All good, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you.
Item G, 2023-2024 already, school of choice discussion.
Each year about this time, we have the board at least have the opportunity to consider that question. If there is any desire to change anything with respect to school of choice, you would have to act on that or vote. We don't believe that we should change anything. Ms. Van Peeren and I just reviewed our anticipated, seat counts and what we will be able to handle. I think I suggested last week, kindergarten, 6th and 9th, we will probably be unlimited again. The other grade levels probably will have some seat limit. And if that happens and we end up with, exceed that seat limit, we have to do a lottery. But we are Macomb County only as our policy. You can be either your own county or you can go out of county too. We don't recommend being out of county. We stay Macomb County. And then without any action taken, we will go forward as we go. Has been since 2003.
Stay the course. Any other comments? And again, as you've mentioned before, those that are out of Macomb County are staff members.
Correct. You've previously adopted the allowance for our staff members to bring their kids here from any county, wherever they live.
And that's the only exception.
So some of our addresses are Oakland County or Wayne County, maybe St. Clair County, but
And even that is if there is space permitting. It is an automatic guarantee.
So,
non-staff children or students are prioritized over the staff, or sorry, the children of staff members if they're out of county. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying they're not prioritized, but both of our schools of choice program and the policy the board adopted regarding employee children says if there's space. So, and if there's an employee who wants to bring their child and we're at max numbers, then it doesn't permit them to just enroll them anyway.
But if they request the enrollment prior to being full, then they're permitted as long as it's not full already.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
we will stay the course.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to general. Item A, Board Policy Revision 1002.
Last month, you had the first reading for this policy revision, and tonight is your second reading. So if it's desirable to adopt this language recommendation, then you would need a motion to do so.
I approve that the Board of Education goes through with the policy revisions for board bylaws and policies 1002 as provided by Miller Johnson as presented.
support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Mr. Beer. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, Benchmark Goals Progress Report.
In late summer 2021, state budget negotiations between the governor and legislature created several requirements of schools related to funding. Two of the requirements called for, one, development of academic progress goals each year by September, which we've done, and two, assessment of students in kindergarten through 8th grade with benchmark testing in the fall to include a mid-year report to the board on goal progress. In Lakeview, as is true with numerous other districts, the state-approved NWEA assessment was utilized as our primary benchmark assessment tool for K through 8th grade. Tonight, administration is providing the Board of Education an overview of progress toward our two goals, one related to student growth in reading, the other focused on growth in mathematics. Generally, Lakeview student progress on our goals is similar to our comparable counterparts throughout Macomb County. When looking at our beginning of the year data, kindergarten and first grade students demonstrated the most success in both contents, with our students' mean scores exceeding national norms in both areas. Second grade mean scores were below national norms for a second year in a row in both reading and math, but third grade means were above national norms in both areas. In analyzing all grades overall, Lakeview students achieved better in reading than mathematics as compared to national RIT scores, with mathematics gaps increasing from upper elementary through middle school. With respect to our demographic subgroups, they seem to have performed similarly to the past, with several falling below the national norm RIT score and below our overall district mean scores. The mean scores of our special education students and English language learners, for example, were lower than our overall district averages, with the gaps increasing in the upper grades. This NWEA data, along with other district-level assessment data, has informed our MTSS process at the elementary level, where we have hired and utilized additional intervention staff to provide targeted instruction to students with identified gaps. We also hired several additional staff to work with students who may be working through social or emotional concerns. Several of these changes and improvements were also identified with the superintendent's goals, which the board approved in September 2022. While not complete, our mid-year benchmark data is already showing accelerated growth among students receiving this support. At the middle school level, we're piloting new ways to target students with gaps in math and ELA with additional instructional support. Our K-12 Math Curriculum Committee has also been digging into our district math data and using that to better inform our curriculum and instruction decisions to improve our math achievement across all grade levels. Our students are still outperforming many local comparable districts, and we expect continued improvement at all grade levels due to our high-quality, evidence-based instruction and the additional interventions for those who need them.
The sample report you have is, as a backup of this material, would be true for all the buildings. We have a similar report, and we post that on the website. And that's a part of the requirement of this budget process.
Any comments from the board? Thank you. All right, moving on to item C, bylaw 1001, organization and functioning of the board / compensation. We added that on earlier today because there was a request by at least one board member to have a discussion on this. I'll open up the floor to Mr. Asia to share what his thoughts are.
Well, I just was thinking about it, I've been on the board now 6+ years, and I don't know when the set amount was, the stipend was put at, but I would just like a general increase for it, probably do this. Part of it is because even just running for the election, you don't pay a signature, it's $100 just to put the name on the ballot. Signs are roughly about $15 a piece now, and running ads and stuff, it's just a big, we all have fundraisers, people ask for everyone, why don't we just give all our money back to the school for fundraisers, so this is to see a general increase for it.
Okay, we have to quantify what your thoughts are.
Unknown, I was thinking $33.33.
Increase?
Yes.
So you're talking about $100 a quarter?
Yes.
Other comments?
I'd just like to review if there's any structure in place of an increase. So whether that be percentage, based on cost of living, percentage based on number of years, or if there's nothing in place for an increase.
I don't know of anything out there that's based on any statistic. We set this $500 limit, it had to be what, 12, 13 years ago-ish? And prior to that, it was $30 a meeting. That included subcommittee meetings, the whole 9 yards. And the most you could take home in those days was $1,560, if I remember correctly, over the year. Beyond that, you couldn't you lost it. So then there was a motion brought forward over a decade ago to take us to the $500 a quarter. Now, to that end, we don't know what is usual and customary at this point for other districts. And typically, administration will do some, background work to see what is out there. We can ask the administration to take a look at that for us, if that's what you want, to see what's usual and customary, I guess. And then that would be a policy change that we'd have to put into a first reading and then a second reading, similar to what we just did on that 1002 action item. So what are your thoughts beyond the 33.33 per month?
I would just make a motion to do a general increase, a stipend of $100 a quarter.
Again, that's policy. And I would suggest that administration takes a look at that and comes back to us and say, this is what the norm is out there
Okay, then,
in Macomb County.
then I motion to table it until administration finds data, and we can discuss on it for a vote next month.
Support.
There's no action item. Now, if there are other board members out there that aren't interested in this, I mean, that's an option as well. So we have a motion by Mr. Asher, support by Mr. Miners, for administration to do some background checking on current standards across Macomb County for board stipends annualized. Discussion on the motion?
You just want to say general area, like Macomb, or you want to
Macomb,
say Macomb?
Macomb County, because it varies all over the place when you get to other counties. So, any other comments from the board?
Is Macomb County part of the official motion? Or does it need to be?
Well, what do you want?
I don't think it is right now, but
It is not right now, no.
Okay, then just for, I'd like to amend the motion and include Macomb County.
Well, he had the motion, he'd amend it, and you would second it.
Include Macomb County.
Okay.
Macomb County only.
Just for clarification, is there a specific item this is it like 4B or?
3C.
3C, general.
4C?
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Could we do a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski,
No.
Mr. Miners,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
No.
Ms. Merton, no. Mr. Asha,
Yes.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Miskell.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. So then the administration will bring something to us next month for discussion, if they can get it done in that time.
I think we can.
As a form of a first reading, how would you want to handle that?
Well, that'll allow us to go make sure we are doing things properly by getting counsel to make sure what we're doing is the way it should be done. With a quick turnaround like this. Because technically speaking, there's a paragraph in your bylaws that speaks to this, but it doesn't have the amount listed. So I think that will ensure that if it should be listed, it will be. If it's not, it doesn't need to be, then it won't, but we'll make sure the council advises us.
2012, 2013, somewhere in there.
Every 10 years we could, take
Well, and if you get some comparables, at least you can, you're a little bit more capable of saying, here's where it should be.
And to be fair, in years past, people who spend a lot of money on elections versus people who do not spend a lot of money on elections, that should not play at all into what your stipend is. The stipend should be covering things like, internet access and dinners for district-related things, et cetera. That's the purpose of the stipend. It's not a payroll check, per se. Well,
you don't have to explain to me how to spend your money. I know what you're getting at, but.
What I'm getting at is what the typical assumption.
That's your opinion, so.
Fair enough.
I don't really need to lecture on that.
Okay, I'll stop the lecture. Any other comments? All right, thank you. We'll move on.
I just want to make sure we have this right, because I think we had a motion, Pete made a motion that wasn't ever supported per se.
It was Ben.
Yeah.
Well, no, he made one, and then there was some conversation that was, then it was supported. So I feel like there was, because I think the first question was to look at it, made a motion to look at the issue, and then,
Till next month, March.
no, first, I mean, the very first piece of the conversation.
So I believe that Mr. Aisha motioned to increase the stipend by $33.30 per month.
There was no motion. It was just open discussion.
Well, I believe he attempted to make a motion, and then,
I just want to make the record clear.
yeah, no, I understand. And then I believe you, Mr. Dombrowski, mentioned that it might be a good idea to have administration take a look at some local comparables, to which then Mr. Aisha said, I would like to motion to table this until the next meeting after administration looks into local values, stipend values.
In
That was
between,
my-
in between there, you had the amended version of it too. That's why I'm trying to make sure I have the
I only-
sequence of those. We have to get to that.
Yeah,
record.
after Mr. Aisha motioned to table it, I amended it to include Macomb County specifically.
But then you couldn't, he had to, he did, and then you supported.
That was my account of the.
I just wanted to make sure we can
Yeah,
make
absolutely.
that right.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Good. All right, moving on to personnel. Item A, changes in personnel.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward the following changes in personnel since the last presentation to the Board of Education on January 3rd. New assignment, Celeste Jacks, Virtual School, Summer School Curriculum Operations Secretary. Catherine Short, Secretary at Jefferson Middle School and Princeton Elementary School Principals. New hires, Yolanda Ramirez, Lakeview Public Schools Elementary Interventionist. Carrie Ann Yu, Lakeview Public Schools Special Education Social Worker. Laura Purdy, Lakeview Public Schools Behavioral and Mental Health Specialist. Renee Robertson, Lakeview High School Part-Time Cashier Helper. Resignations, Dana Kleckler, Lakeview Public Schools COVID Coordinator. Emily Shanky, Lakeview Public Schools COVID Coordinator. Caleb Lathers, Lakeview Public Schools Technology Co-op. Jefferson Middle School 8th grade Washington trip 2022-23. Jennifer Smith as trip coordinator. Krista Schneider as trip chaperone. Spring Sports Athletic Coordinators, John Carr. Schedule B returning coach and sponsors as listed. And Schedule B returning coach and sponsors continued from the first page as listed. And Schedule B new coach and sponsor, Renee Kuzmano, Ardmore Elementary School Green Team sponsor.
Move for approval? Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Aisha. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Have we any of the new hires in attendance this evening?
We do. I'm going to start off with Celeste. Celeste is back there, who is taking on new responsibilities. She's done a great job with her past positions, and we're happy to have her going into the new spot. We're not sure what that date is yet, because we are still setting up dates for the new folks who will be taking over. So she's been doing a great job at helping in both areas. So we thank you, and we're excited to have you in your new role, Celeste. And you brought a guest with you. Would you like to introduce your guest? Ah, very good. Good job. Congratulations. We also have way in the back there is Yolanda. Yolanda, if you want to stand up so they can see you, our newest interventionist. Yolanda's coming to us with lots of experience in this area, working with students and helping with interventions in another district not so far away, but we're very happy that she's joining us as well. And you also brought a guest, right? Ah, very nice. And we have Carrie Ann Yu, who is over here, our newest social worker here. And we have Carrie Ann's coming with us, so some experience from other places. She has a master's degree from Wayne State, her bachelor's in social work from Wayne State, and she's done quite a bit of experience in the charter world, and is coming to us, bringing all of that knowledge and a whole lot of training that she's had to benefit our kids and our staff. So we welcome you as well. And we have Laura Purdy, last but not least, over there. Laura is coming. She has her master's of counseling from Oakland University and a bachelor's in psychology. Laura has a wide range of experience, both in school setting as well as private practice. So she is coming with some of those connections to outside resources we were just talking about earlier, about the role of our school staff and how important it is for them to be able to do referrals out. And her connections with organizations she's worked at is going to be that really great liaison in putting kids and staff and families with the right resources lining up to what their needs are. So we welcome you, and we're so happy to have you. And those would be our new hires who are in attendance.
Welcome aboard all. All right, item B, exempt central office contract recommendation.
In July, the Board Personnel Subcommittee authorized administration to audit exempt employee contracts with respect to salary and fringe benefits to determine how they compare with all other district employee contracts, as well as comparable positions in other districts throughout the state. Superintendent Paulson, Ms. Conan, and myself engaged in this exercise throughout the fall. Administration brought a full recommendation forward that included exempt contract change recommendations in January that aligned with internal employee contracts and external comparable positions. However, through implementation of this process, it was found that one exempt employee was never on the wage grid, as they had been hired before the grids were established for her position. Administration believes the best course of action going forward is to modify the base wage for this grid, which would allow us to place this employee on the appropriate grid and step for their position. Therefore, administration is bringing forward a recommendation this evening to update one exempt central office employee contract and one wage grid as provided below. All other benefit and compensation areas previously approved by the board in January will still apply. The contract change is strictly associated with the wage grid below, and the employee noted no other employee is on this grid. The grid cells were modified by approximately $200 on each step to accommodate appropriate placement with the employee's current wage. The amounts and the position for the executive assistant for the superintendent, HR, and accountant is listed, and the individual impacted on this recommendation is Lori Cherry, executive assistant for human resources.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the exempt central office employee contract change for Lori Cherry, effective January 1st, 2023, as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Miners. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Curriculum, item A, CT auto shop equipment bid.
Each year, 61C grant monies are allocated to Lakeview Public Schools as a pass-through grant monitored by the Macomb Intermediate School District. These monies come through a state school aid fund source for districts who provide career technical education, CTE, planning and courses for their students. CTE programs are required to be up to date with local business in terms of techniques, software, equipment, and supplies used by students. Lakeview CTE classes at Lakeview High School include the automotive program run by Mr. Jim Schneider. Lakeview's auto program has earned national certification as an automotive technician and mechanic training facility. Lakeview was given our largest 61C grant allocation for the 22-23 since these funds first started being distributed years ago. The auto shop at LHS is in need of a tire changer and tire balancer to be more aligned to automotive standards around Macomb County. Administration assisted LHS in developing a bid specification aligned with automotive standards in our area, as determined by the Auto Program Advisory Committee, a group comprised of owners and managers of auto repair facilities in our area. Lakeview posted the auto shop tire changer and balancer equipment bid available to vendors and displayed it on the state website for 2 weeks in January as required. One vendor submitted a complete bid. This vendor provided equipment in alignment with the advisory committee's recommendation and has indicated an ability to deliver in a timely way. In reviewing similar equipment available for sale from vendors who chose not to bid, the prices for the tire changer and balancer as provided by equipment distributors, Fairhaven, Michigan, are competitive. This equipment is just two pieces of several new items coming to LHS CTE programs for future student use. Therefore, administration recommends award of bid for a new tire changer and tire balancer to equipment distributors in the amount of $54,665.52.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Asha, support by Mr. Bear. Discussion on the motion.
I'm just wondering if with this amount of money, does it have a response back? I mean, can they do more work and get some kind of funding back to support it? Because now you have tire balancing.
We have old tire balancers. There's actually two sets of older equipment. One is pretty out of date. And so part of the, recycle those out. In fact, we may be able to sell those to some other smaller shop. Our operation's a pretty big one, actually, ironically. It's a school, but it's 3 large bays, and he can have 6 cars inside at any given time, and 3 on racks up above. So this balancer and changer the specifications had to be only a certain size, right? The space of the floor to fit where we needed to go. So the kids do work. They are labor-free, but the cost of equipment, supplies, parts, whoever the owner of the car is pays for it.
So it has an ability to make money, is what I'm saying, for the school.
Could, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, small
And
upcharge.
on top of that, it puts the kids in proper equipment, so
Yep.
that they're learning.
Right.
When if they transition.
Almost all of the repair facilities in our area that are worthy, I guess, have this actual equipment in their facilities.
That's wonderful.
So your Roy O'Brien Ford dealership service area, or your larger Midas shops.
So much easier for them to transition.
That's what it's about.
We had,
Transfer.
when we bid this out, I had one other vendor who had inquired with a different piece of equipment, and when I forwarded on to Mr. Schneider, and he said, this doesn't really meet what our kids do because they're used to working on this Hunter product, which is the base of design, and they're like, that's where they go out into the field and use it. So, and the vendor said, okay, I get it, I just didn't want to bid and not have a chance to, modify a bid if I needed to or something. So, it was good that we had some interest, but again, it's what's best for our kids when they get out into the real world.
The other part of how the money comes back to is in order to qualify to be a CTE program that gets the money, you end up having to have standard-based industry quality equipment. So they come and actually visit and audit our programs to be able to continue to be considered CTE that qualify for the funding that comes, so.
I think it's really important that the community knows all these benefits.
Mhm.
And the position that we put our children in so that they are transitioning into well-paid positions because they already have that experience.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And the auto shop has put tires on 2 of my vehicles in the last year and a half, so.
Mine
I have
too.
full confidence that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't even want to start talking about how many cars I've rolled through. The NATEF certification, that NATEF training facility certification is a huge one. That's not every place. And to be a NATEF training facility is one step above. You might be at a dealership and see NATEF signs, and that means that they've met a certain set of standards. To be a NATEF training facility is one step beyond that, right? So you're not just employing NATEF certified people, you're actually training NATEF certified people. Big, very big, good, a good big, right?
I definitely think that when we have something like this, that it needs to be called at the meeting so that the community understands what a wonderful thing that we have going on here and that we're keeping these kids moving in whatever direction, whatever path they're taking, whether it's higher education or certified training or whatnot, but we have the best facilities for that.
I've told this story to some parents who've asked, I won't name the dealership, but a local dealership actually asked us when Mr. Case was principal, I was superintendent, and Mr. Schneider's still been the teacher. They asked to meet with us. They wanted exclusivity for access to our kids when they graduated from that program. And I said, well, that's a very nice compliment, but you can't get exclusivity for every graduate's coming out of our auto program. We'd be happy to give them a job posting that you might have at the time, but, so that was a very nice, compliment to the program.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, France/Spain International Summer Trip 2024.
Tonight, administration is seeking approval for an international summer trip to France and Spain for Lakeview High School French and Spanish students in grades 9 through 12 in the summer of 2024. We are estimating this trip will be 8 to 10 days, including 2 days of travel, with a cost of approximately $4,000 to $5,000 per student. A variety of fundraising opportunities would be made available to help defer the cost, and payment plans would be offered to give families time to stretch out the total cost of the trip. This would be an educational tour of France and Spain, allowing students to immerse themselves in the culture and language of both countries firsthand. Activities will be planned that give students the opportunity to engage in communication in the French and Spanish languages that they have learned or are learning. Also, due to increasing demographic changes within our district, an international experience like this one will give students an opportunity to learn about other cultures and build a fostering care for differences among one another. LHS French teacher Natalie Bowen would be the sponsor of this trip, with Deputy Superintendent Van Pieren assisting with the organization and chaperoning of the trip. There will be a chaperone-to-student ratio of 1 chaperone for every 4 to 8 students. The France-Spain International Summer Trip will occur in June 2024.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the France-Spain International Summer Trip in June of 2024.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. I do have one question. We've seen this before with trips to Washington, D.C. and the like, where worldly events could occur, especially going to Europe. Is there some sort of insurance that would be available for people making this investment that they could draw on if it doesn't work out?
There is. That would be one of the requirements on the travel tour company that's selected. That would have to be one of the requirements to even be considered.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have a question. When is the last time we had an organized function like this abroad? I can't recall.
So we went about 3 years before COVID.
Okay.
And we were working on another trip before COVID. And then, obviously COVID happened, and we have, rightfully so, staff, people who are interested in going. Staff were a little bit concerned about being the ultimate responsible folks. And so Mr. Kaplan and I have been working with staff and, being willing to help with some of that, because obviously it's a big responsibility, and yet it's an opportunity that some kids will never get if there isn't some kind of school trip.
Cool.
But they also can't advertise. We met Mr. Kaplan and Ms. Bowen and I, because as I had said, we were working on things prior to COVID, and then, everything had fallen out. The board has to really approve the concept of the trip for us to even be able to, secure, a contract, and what would be the amount, and even advertise it to kids. And that is why the specifics of the trip, we will be coming back to if you approve this, with the very specifics of what would be the travel company, what would be the itinerary, what would be policies on insurance, what would be the ratio of chaperones, and all of those other very minute details that you're used to seeing when we're doing even a local trip, let alone an international trip.
Okay, good. Any other comments, questions?
Jealous.
Thank you for your involvement and support in that.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, JMS 2023-2024 course book.
Jefferson Middle School's administrative team is recommending revisions to the 23-24 Jefferson Middle School course book. The course book is attached with the proper revisions identified and is coming to the full Board of Education for consideration and review this evening. Amanda Mikulevich, principal of Jefferson Middle School, is here to answer any questions that board members may have pertaining to the 2023-2024 Jefferson Middle School coursebook.
Move to approve.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Mr. Miners. Discussion on the motion. This catalog has come a long way in 15 years, and it's a lot of good stuff in there, and all the work that everybody's done in the last several years to even make it better as far as the offerings go. It's awesome, outstanding. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item D, LHS 2023-2024 coursebook.
Lakeview High School's administrative team is recommending revisions to the 2023-2024 Lakeview High School coursebook. The coursebook is attached with the proposed revisions identified and is coming to the full Board of Education for consideration and review this evening. Scott Kapla, principal of Lakeview High School, is here to answer any questions that board members may have pertaining to the 23-24 Lakeview High School coursebook.
Move to approve.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Mr. Miners. Discussion on the motion.
I'd just like to make a comment that it's great to see the expansion of AP offerings to our students.
And again, the same way with the high school book versus the middle school book. It's come a long way, and it's an outstanding document and offerings for these kids. Thank you. Any other comments?
I was just wondering, with respect to the grading policy, I see that they took out the 2021, I think it was, moving forward. Is that because those people have matriculated in, or that's gone, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's the senior class that was, okay.
Any other comments?
One other question, and I know we dealt with it this year with respect to dual enrollment. I don't know if there was anything stated in here that if a child retakes that method, there's nothing. Okay, all right.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Bond implementation, item A, asbestos abatement at Greenwood and Harmon Elementary School and Jefferson Middle School.
As is often true when working on older buildings, there is a need to properly remove asbestos or asbestos-containing materials from areas that are to be renovated. Tonight, administration is recommending award of contract for the asbestos abatement project at Greenwood and Harmon Elementary Schools and Jefferson Middle School, which is to be funded from the 2022 Bond Fund Series 2. Starting in December, administration engaged consultant Nova Environmental to assist on the abatement specifications and bidding. The package was advertised and bidders were solicited as law and district policy requires. 5 companies attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting, and ultimately 5 bid proposals were submitted to the district on January 10th, 2023, when they are publicly open and read aloud. Global Green Service Group, LLC, submitted the low bid for this project at Greenwood Elementary for $76,900, while Environmental Maintenance Engineers Incorporated submitted the low bid for the abatement at Harmon Elementary School and Jefferson Middle School for $19,500, and both are being recommended for award of contract. Nova Environmental's expert staff assisted administration with conducting post-bid interviews with both companies and determined they are the lowest qualified bidder to complete each respective project based on the completeness of the bid and covered the covered scope and requirements. Global Green Service Group did acceptable work within Lakeview Public Schools this past summer at Princeton and Ardmore Elementary Schools. Both Environment Maintenance Engineers Incorporated and Global Green Service Group have done work with Nova on several projects outside the district of a similar and more difficult nature. Nova feels confident that both contractors can complete the project within the time frame and specification. The work at Greenwood is scheduled to begin in March, with Harmon and Jefferson to start over the district's spring break in April to prepare the areas affected for continued renovation throughout the summer. Administration recommends the board approve award a contract for work at Greenwood to Global Green Service Group LLC, and award of contract for work at Harmon and Jefferson to Environmental Maintenance Engineers Incorporated as presented.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the bids in the amount of $76,900 at Greenwood Elementary to Global Green Services LLC and $19,500 at Harmon Elementary and Jefferson Middle School to Environmental Maintenance Engineers Incorporated for asbestos abatement as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion.
I have a quick question. I know it's going to say, so they're trying to work in a week. What kind of guarantee or something? What are they going to test? Are they going to test it, make sure the air quality is safe, or
They
can't really test on a Sunday and say, oh.
They have people that are on site every day, and they're constantly testing the air quality. So they have an air monitor that is continuously monitoring the air, and then they have a report that they have to submit to the state.
So they'll submit all their day before, or, before schools reopens for the breaks?
Yeah, I mean, this work in March will be going on in an area that we're currently starting to move parts out of the media center in a computer lab, and then we'll be working on that area at some point in March, and we don't know the exact date because we have to finalize that. And then that's the Elmdale side where we're going to start the construction. So we're going to get a start on that, and then they're going to come back at some point in the summer to finalize the work in the different areas of the school. So we're kind of staging this so that we can isolate those areas. There's going to be a temporary wall, so those two areas are not going to be anywhere where students are going to be at that time.
Yeah, they don't have access to it because it'll be separated off and fenced away.
And then Harmon, the same thing when they're doing, and that's why the Harmon and Jefferson amount is so much lower. There's less abatement that they're going to have to do at both of those places because we're about out of asbestos at Harmon because.
Very shocked that we have as much asbestos still at Greenwood as we did.
Yeah, the 01 bond, they cleaned out so
Yeah,
much.
and every time we do that. Yeah, every time we touch it, they're coming out and and we will. There's always going to be something that we find. It might be, some asbestos pipe insulation that they find when we're digging in ceilings or some glue pods, those types of things. So anytime we have that, that's why we're doing this, so.
Any other questions?
I just want one clarification. I'm assuming that it's only $19,500 for both Harmon Elementary and Jefferson Middle School, but just the way it's written.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like it's a
Yeah.
contract. So
No, it's the total amount. There's really, the only amount of work that they're doing at Jefferson is there's a little bit of, we're putting a new air handling unit at the auto shop, the wood shop area to get better air circulation, and they don't have to maybe prop a door open to get, so it's not so dusty in there. And there's some asbestos material that's on the roof that they have to take out. So the lower number is based on that, and then the small amount at Harmon. So it's combined 19,000 is for both buildings.
Yeah, I hope we're not propping doors open.
That's part of the reason that we're putting this increased air circulation in there, so we don't have to prop doors open ever.
Fair enough. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Under business, item A, contracted athletic trainer services recommendation.
Tonight, administration is bringing forth a recommendation to award the athletic trainer service contract to Henry Ford Health System through the 2025-26 school year. In January, a request for proposal was created and bidders were solicited as district policy requires. Ultimately, one company submitted a bid to our RFP, which was Henry Ford Health System. Administration reviewed the bid and went through the post-bid interview with the contact in order to ensure a full and complete bid was received. Henry Ford Health System did fully complete the bid submittal as required. Background checks were also conducted with school-based references provided by Henry Ford, all of which were positive. This reaffirmed the past positive relationship the district has had with Henry Ford since 2012. Based on the pricing submitted and positive background checks, administration is confident that Henry Ford Health System will be able to continue to meet the high level of expectations the district has come to expect from their company. It should be noted that Henry Ford Health System has only increased the hourly rate for the trainer services $1.50 an hour since the inception of the partnership in 2012 and has not increased the rate since 2017. Therefore, administration is recommending award of contract to Henry Ford Health System for contracted athletic trainer services through June 30, 2026. The approximate yearly cost for this service is $45,000.
Support?
Move for
Oh,
approval.
move to approval, I'm sorry.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Mr. Miners. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item A, under other, request for closed session to consider an attorney-client privileged communication. Roll call vote, please. Or we need the motion and then roll call.
I'll make that motion.
This is for closed session.
Support?
And we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bear?
Aye.
Ms. Martin? Aye. Mr. Miners?
Aye.
Mr. Asha?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Yes. Ms. Muskelly?
Yes.
Mr. Muskelly? Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye. Okay, we have a 7-0 vote going to closed session. It is now 8:41. We will reconvene at 8:50 in closed session. And do we anticipate any action coming out of the closed session? No action. All right, and this will be the end of the live streaming because we're going to closed session, no action following, so. So we're in recess from 8:41. Closed at 8:50.